Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate being able to give my input because both Charlie Townsend and I were part of the subcommittee that put in a lot of time with our discussions. And I first want to thank everyone today for their speaking, for coming to City Hall if they were able to, and for tuning in to Zoom if they were able to. All the comments are very important to us, and needless to say, we take this issue very, very seriously. So I want to welcome everyone, and I hope that you'll be able to take a few minutes to listen to the further comments, because I spent many, many hours reviewing every single letter that we received. And I've spoken through the many years to our residents, to our non-residents, regarding STRs throughout the entire Coachella Valley and throughout a lot of other areas where people have second homes or where they visit through the STR programs. There's a lot of very interesting issues that are going on here. And they're so interesting, in fact, because now a lot of organizations find it important to provide lectures, they provide seminars, they write articles, because residential neighborhoods having STRs are a real problem. So, as I said, I take this very seriously. There are many cities now that are having to dealing with these STRs. Includes La Quinta and Cathedral City, San Diego, Los Angeles, Palm Desert banned STRs in areas zoned for single-family residential homes in 2017, and cities across the country are having the same problems, and which was pointed out that Carmel, which is the city by the sea, banned their STRs in 1991. And just as a point of reference, I would like to show a couple of maps here because it'll give you an idea of what exactly our city is looking like with these STRs. And I hope this will show up okay. This is an area south of Highway 111, and it's right near Blixith Park. And this was done and taken in 2019. So these are the homes that were permitted. The green ones were permitted. The yellow ones were on a waiting list. The red ones were not permitted. And then you move to another map, and this is the Tamarisk area, and this is west of Palmview. And this last map is also of some of the rentals. This is the Tamarisk area east of Palmview. So it gives you a little bit of insight as to the overall mapping of all these STRs and where they are located. And I think we can all agree that residents deserve to know who is living next door to them. They want to know, am I safe? Are my children and my grandchildren safe when they come to visit? When they're out in front of my home and they're riding their bicycles, do I have to stay with them, or can I let them do it by themselves? You know, how safe are they really going to be? STRs owners, and every one of them that I've talked to and that I've heard speak, have all said they have never had a complaint. They only rent to wonderful professionals, perfect families, all are respectful, they abide by all the rules and regulations, and most of the time they probably do. But just like with our own kids, when they walk out that door, you don't know what they're doing, you don't know who they're hanging out with, you don't know what their activities are. We don't always know what people are doing and the freedoms they want when they're on vacation. Also, I'm sure that a lot of STR owners are very, very nice people also. Although, if you go on social media and you listen to some of the comments, if you disagree with them, watch out. They can get really nasty. So, full-time residents here in Rancho Mirage have many concerns. The majority of STR owners do not live in Rancho Mirage. They are not involved in the community. For many, it is just an investment. And some have probably never even seen the inside of their property. They don't know the rules and regulations very often. A lot of them, if not most, never receive a newspaper of what's going on in the Coachella Valley or Rancho Mirage. And an interesting point was that a speaker made today that he went to his own home in Rancho Mirage. And his next door neighbor was concerned because she didn't even know who he was. Well, that's what some of the complaints that I've heard about through the years. Many properties are LLCs, which means they are limited liability corporations. And if you're not familiar with them, go online, find out exactly what it is. Also, STR owners very often will list their address on the application as Rancho Mirage. And most of the time, that is incorrect. We don't even know where a lot of people and a lot of the STR owners live. So, one agency said that we don't understand how expensive a second home is. Well, I can certainly tell you because I own a second home and I don't rent it out. There's everyday maintenance, there's insurance, there are taxes, there are repairs, there's the gardener, there's the poolman. And I have to say that most people I know would love to own a second home, but most of them do not because they cannot afford to have a second home without rentals. And I would like to touch on another subject because I understand how profitable some of these STRs can be. I understand how profitable all rental properties can be. And one example is that most of these smaller homes are renting for $700 to $800 per night. So if they're renting for 30 weekends, for 3 nights a weekend, they are bringing in $75,000 a year. I also know how certain properties have been approached, myself included. We were approached maybe 10 years ago. We were asked if we could allow for a wedding or for a large party, and they would pay us $8,000 for the evening. And if we would allow them to come back for brunch the next day, they would give us an additional $4,000. That's without any sleeping over, and that was 10 years ago. So in less than 24 hours, we would be making $12,000. So I can understand why a lot of these STR owners are up in arms regarding a possible ban. There's a lot of income that would be lost. There's one lady who lives or rents a place in the Tamarisk area, and she said that she rents it for well over $1,000 a day. $1,000 a day to rent one house. So this is a very, very lucrative business, to say the very least. And then somebody else mentioned last week at the meeting that if there are so many resident owners that live here full time that are unhappy and are opposed to STRs, where are they? Why don't they come to speak? Well, I'll tell you, is because most of them, if not almost 95%, don't want to complain and they want to be anonymous. And let me just show you. These are all the letters we have received from all the non-complainers who want to remain anonymous for the most part. And what's so scary is that they talk about the words that people are very fearful of: retaliation, revenge, reprisals, retribution. So many of these people are afraid to speak out. Ted Weil, our council member, mentioned last week or at the last meeting that he's very fortunate. He has an STR next door to him, but it's really not an STR. It's a long-term rental, and he has never had a problem. I have not been quite so fortunate. I have an STR next door to me, and I have had one for the last 13 years, and I have never complained. I've never complained to a hotline. I've never complained to our city. One time, I called him because he lives in the desert here. And I said, can you please ask somebody who is parked in front of our driveway to move his car? Well, I have to tell you that I've never talked to anyone who got so nasty in my life. Needless to say, whenever there was a complaint, I never called him. So what do? What do most of us do? Okay, so I have a barbecue. I bring my barbecue in the house, or I cancel it if I know that my next door neighbor is going to be having any visitors who are going to be renting for the weekend. Safety is a very big issue. This is revolving doors of renters. People are concerned for their own safety because of the constant influx of strangers every week, especially with close proximity to children or their grandchildren. Residents want to swim in their own backyard. They want to dine. They want to have people over. They want to sit down and read or just relax in their backyard. You know what it's like to sit for 3 hours in your backyard and listen to lovely children, but they're in the pool and they're yelling Marco Polo for 3 hours. And this is every weekend. Do you know what it's like to listen to somebody bouncing a basketball for 2 hours every weekend? Or playing ping pong every weekend? Another thing people complain about is smokers hanging out in the backyard and hanging out in the front yard. They're smoking cigarettes, they're smoking cigars, they're smoking marijuana. For years now, there's been a prohibition on smoking in hotels, in cruise ships, in restaurants, in airplanes, in theaters, in shopping centers, and the prohibition is for a good reason. Nobody wants to have smoke wafting over in their area, especially if they're trying to have a nice dinner with some friends or even sit outside by themselves. However, most of these lovely residential owners won't complain. And where do you draw the line with your complaints? Complaints are such a fine line. You know, when do you become a pain, and when do you really want to have something stopped, or are you just going to ignore it? So every time your landscaping is damaged because of people out in front being on your lawn, running across your grass, running into your bushes, do you call and complain about that? Do you call and complain every time somebody comes in with a barking dog or two barking dogs? And when they go out for dinner or they go out to a movie or they go out shopping and the dog is barking all day, do you complain about that? Do you complain about dog poop on your property, on your lawn, on your driveway? Probably not. You just pick it up before you drive over it or somebody steps in it. So, should there be people who complain if their driveways are blocked? I didn't complain. I called my neighbor and said, would you mind having this guy or the gal move their car? I can't even get out of my driveway. And the repercussion that I experienced from that one phone call. So do people call when the music is too loud? Do they call when there's too many people? Probably not. A few STR letters made several suggestions. STR owners should get together, solve the problems, and form a task force with the city. I have to tell you that I personally have asked STR owners through the years, please take care of problems. I've asked agency owners, please take care of the problems. These problems are going to come back to bite you. It will be very painful. Bad behavior has consequences. Get the STRs permitted. There were so many unpermitted rentals and so many unpermitted rentals where their neighbors knew who they were but never addressed it. They didn't want to address a lot of problems. They never even wanted to address a lot of the complaints. One STR owner has been renting her place since 2013. This was the first year, 2020, that she finally got a permit. At the last council meeting, I spoke about instituting rules every year. And every year or two, we increase the number of rules. And because we wanted to keep all these STRs as viable properties that can be rented as long as possible. All those rules and regulations were very carefully thought out. One of the big problems is people just don't want to behave, especially when they're on vacation. They like the freedom. They like to do what they want at any hour of the day or night, but very often it's at the neighbor's expense. Can you imagine a crowd of people dancing on the roof of a rented property that isn't even their own property? Can you imagine we had to make a rule so that people don't jump off the roof into a swimming pool? These are things that you assume people would really know about, and we would not have to make a ruling on it. And I know Airbnb was mentioned several times. And for all of those that are not familiar with Airbnb, because they rent properties all over the world, it was stated that they do not give out addresses. Well, about 2 years ago, they came to our city and said, hey, we're going to give you money for transient occupancy taxes. However, we're going to give you the amount of money we want to give you. We're not going to tell you what addresses they are for. We're not going to tell you for how many nights. We'll give you the money, though. Either take it or leave it. Well, needless to say, we took it. But we don't know what houses they're for and for how many nights they're rented. STR owners say they want to build vacation memories, and their renters want to build vacation memories. Well, what about the residents' memories? What about the residents' privacy? What about the residents' peace of mind? Two people, I was told, that lived next to and out of frustration with all the noise and the commotion, ended up selling their properties and moving out of the city of Rancho Mirage. They just couldn't take it anymore. There was one lady that sent me a note saying that our personal experience led us to relocate to Rancho Mirage from our beloved home in the colony, the movie colony in Palm Springs, due to the proliferation of vacation rentals in that neighborhood. So they're moving out of Palm Springs into Rancho Mirage for the peace and quiet. So I understand, as I say, the anger of the STR owners. We're talking about a $7 to $8 million hotel industry in residential neighborhoods. And those are the ones we know about. So according to the internet, while New York is one of the biggest Airbnb markets, it's one of the top places where Airbnb is illegal. And an article in the Los Angeles Times on August 9th, 2020, states that tenant activists celebrated when Los Angeles ushered in new rules to clamp down on renting homes for short stays. However, thousands of illegal rentals are still being advertised online. So STRs, unlike hotels, have no ADA requirements. They don't have to worry about building ramps for wheelchairs. They don't have to worry about redoing their bathrooms or their showers to make them wheelchair accessible. There are no county health inspections. There's no on-site security. And apparently they do allow smoking. So they are essentially a magnet for unsupervised renters. Many STRs don't want to rent their properties for 30 or 60 days. Why? Because it eliminates their freedom to come and go as they wish, even if they only come and go every 6 to 8 weeks. They don't want to tie up their property. But it's important to remember, your rental properties are still available for rentals for a minimum of 30 days. And there are still STRs in many of our HOA gated communities. And long-term renters have a different attitude. They have different needs. They have different behavior. They get to know your neighbors. They get to know the neighbors' children. They participate in the community. They volunteer at schools. They volunteer at charities. They volunteer at our libraries. They enjoy houses of worship. They attend neighborhood gatherings. They help neighbors in an emergency or if the neighbor has an illness. They take in the neighbor's newspapers or packages, or they water plants, or they keep a spare key. They will be part of a neighborhood watch. They become a real part of the fabric of the neighborhood and the community. They are a real neighbor, not just a weekend stranger who leaves and then the cleaning crew arrives, only to have another group of weekend strangers move in again. Long-term rentals assure residents that they won't be one for sale sign away from living next door to a mini hotel. STR owners say home prices will drop, but residents say home prices will increase because neighborhoods will no longer be hotel zones. And it's interesting because Tom and I drove around a few weeks ago twice up in the Mag Falls area, the Magnesia Falls Cove area. There were exactly 4 for sale signs. One of them already had a sold sign on top. We called the realtors because 2 of them were already in escrow. And the 4th one was waiting for another offer. He had already had 2, but he knew a 3rd offer that was going to be higher was coming in. These are homes that are between 2,000 and 2,400 square feet and sell for $700,000 to $800,000. So You can read online, you can hear some comments. People say that STR businesses are buying up homes and pricing people, especially families, out of the market. People are turning lovely residential neighborhoods, houses into hotels. People move here for our serenity, for peace, for quiet, for sophistication. They feel good being here. They feel safe being here because they know that we have stable home ownership. STR owners say, find a compromise. Make a win-win for everyone. You can fix things. And that all sounds great. But how do you fix piles of trash in front of someone's home blowing all over the streets? How do you fix STRs being rented during the pandemic when our hotels are closed? How do you fix abusive, loud, drunken behavior? How do you fix people coming out of parties and throwing up in the street? How do you fix realtors promoting new listings as potential STRs? How do you fix the drunks next door who are now in your backyard? How do you fix property sellers needing to disclose STR problems next door when they go to rent or sell? How do you fix long-term million-dollar homeowners now living next door to mini hotels? But most troubling to me is, how do you work with people who are already encouraging and giving advice on websites on how to cheat? Just book a 30-day rental and then give a refund for early departure so the property can again be re-rented for another 30 days. And actually, that particular comment and that advice was given by a person who came and spoke today. Rancho Mirage full-time population is 18,000. It grows to 35,000 in high season. We know lots of people who are moving to Rancho Mirage from a lot of the Coachella Valley cities. But let me just point out as a final message, we all campaigned on providing the best quality of life possible for our residents. Rancho Mirage is one of the most desirable cities in our country. We underground our utility wires. We rubberize our roads. We have a world-class library with free lectures, free entertainment. We have a state-of-the-art observatory that gives free science programs for children and adults. We have state-of-the-art amphitheater with lots of free entertainment. We have a free ambulance service for residents within Rancho Mirage. We have an amazing Great Plates program that provides free meals to seniors and others who qualify during this pandemic. We have a world-class Eisenhower Hospital and Healthcare Center. We have state-of-the-art parks. We have synchronized lighting signals. We have 60 miles of bike paths. We have sensible growth and development, and the list goes on and on and on. We've been called a lot of uncomplimentary names as council members, but also we've been praised for being smart, for being courageous, for being dedicated, for being prudent. We've had great foresight. We're noted for our strength. None of us are bullied, have no doubt. We are all strong people. We have our own opinions, and we stand up for what we believe is correct. Needless to say, I would love to please everyone. I would love for people to come and experience our beautiful Rancho Mirage and enjoy all of our amenities. But the problem is, public neighborhoods are not hotel zones. They are not, as somebody mentioned, cash registers for absentee landlords. And if I allowed them, I would be in complete dereliction of my duties. And somebody mentioned the tail is wagging the dog. Well, he may mean that 18 to 35,000 people who live in Rancho Mirage on longer terms or permanently are apparently the tail. I don't happen to buy into that. I think that we all have our opinions. There is no tail wagging the dog anywhere. We're doing what we can to make the best possible life for our full-time residents and for people who come to here, including our businesses. We have everybody's good will at heart, and we try to protect those we can. So thank you so much. And as I finish this, I would like to move on to making a motion, and we can go ahead with that, and then we can have a discussion. But my motion.
I'll decide what we're going to do.